And thanks, Jörg, for the nice talk. And you should be seeing my screen now with some luck. So, hello, everybody. I'm Philip Ginter from Turku. And we are kind of flowing straight into the fairly short panel discussion that we have in here on language technologies for the languages of Finland. And we have several panelists today, actually 5 of them, plus me. And I hope you all are now in this call. And I think it would be nice if everyone could now introduce themselves shortly, so that we know who is actually discussing. And I think we could start from right and go to left. So if Kaarina could start.
Thank you, Philip. Hi, everyone. My name is Kaarina Hyvönen, and I come from Kielten. Thanks for inviting me today. My background is in language. I'm an English major on a trip in the language technology wonderland. My company Kielten was founded in 1987, 8 years ago. It was a startup before there were startups. It was first funded by Sitra. And to pick up some highlights from the almost 30 years that Kielten has been there, and me in it, I've been a dictionary editor, started out as one. I've been an MT developer. I've been building a content strategy for the company with the best publishing houses, dictionary publishing houses in the world. I've been producing the market-leading digital language services. And now, today, we're building a new business on new type of technology, which would enable us to sort of offer our data, language data, to customers in a new way via an API, and trying to look into platform economy. So that's a long introduction. Thanks.
Thank you. Pasi?
Hi, hello everybody. I'm Pasi Tapanainen, and here I'm from Etuma, but I'm also involved in Connexor and also in a company called Eximia. And in Etuma we are making mostly customer sentiment mostly from texts, so that to understand what customers like and what they do not like, and what should be done to get them happy. In Connexor we are making language technologies, so different libraries that are mostly in syntactic parsing and that kind of things. And in Eximia I have been involved in creating some education-related technology that is related to language technologies. And I'm a PhD in language technologies from University of Helsinki.
Okay, thank you, Pasi. Sampo?
Hi, I'm Sampo Pyysalo. I'm an associate professor with the Turku NLP lab at the University of Turku. My background is in machine learning and very much in applied machine learning to natural language processing challenges. Since rejoining the University of Turku after some time abroad a few years back, I've been largely focusing on the application of deep learning technologies to address challenges in Finnish NLP and language technology. Thanks.
Thank you. Jörg, again?
Okay, so I take it short. So I'm leading the research technology group at the Digital Humanities department at the University of Helsinki. I joined the university here in 2015. Since then, working on lots of different things, but mostly multilingual NLP and machine translation.
Okay, and last but not least, Sebastian.
Hi, so I'm working as a solution architect at Linksoft, and Linksoft is probably the oldest company here. Then we founded 1986. We do mainly translation and subtitling, and we do this with the help of our own machine translation and speech recognition. And we also do text analysis tools and proofing tools, primarily for our own use, but also for consultancy and selling it along. My background is pretty broad in this NLP area. So I have PhD in speech synthesis. I worked for 10 years in various other tools and applications. And nowadays I'm head of Linksoft's machine translation development.
Okay, thank you, Sebastian. And I'm Philip Ginter from the University of Turku. I've been for the longest of time kind of helping to run the Turku NLP language technology lab, and I've done many things over the years, mostly focusing on resource and method development for sort of machine learning based language technology. And I think the topic of this panel discussion is quite clearly set for us. So we are basically striving to map out the Finnish NLP landscape. I will now stop my share because I don't think I need it. And if you can keep your cameras on, if possible, then we can kind of see each other. And I think my first question, so I hope that most of this discussion will be driven by you and not by me. But I was thinking that maybe we should start on a positive note in these days. And when I was thinking about the status or state of Finnish NLP in terms of sort of the NLP landscape, who is working on it and how much, and both also in terms of NLP, the technology and resources for Finnish, I think we are actually doing quite well and are on a par with other languages. You see Finnish on my side when I read papers. I see Finnish in the result tables of research, kind of top-notch research. I see a lot of technology out there. We have all of these basic tools sort of on the internet and free. So I think that we are actually doing surprisingly well. Do you agree? And any one of you can start.
I don't think it's a surprise. I think it can be expected. Finland has a strong tradition in software engineering. And this kind of, and now it's pretty strong in this NLP area as well. So I don't think it's surprising, but it's nice.
Yeah,
yes,
absolutely. Please go
ahead. No, I was gonna say the same as Sebastian. We've been at it for about 30 years. So and in the early days, Kieliteknologiat did actually create some actual language technology modules that were the first of their kind back in the day. So yeah, we've been at it for a long time. So I'm not surprised, but it's a good thing. Yes.
Yes, I would say that while Finland doesn't exactly lead in terms of state-of-the-art deep learning technology for language technology, for example, we do have a very strong base of application. We have strong basic resources for the analysis of Finnish and Swedish, and I think we're in a very good place.
But that is a very nice way to start this discussion. But I think there is always a room for improvement. I mean, over the years, when I think about times in the Turku NLP, so we of course talk to the industry, we talk to people, and every now and then they ask us, why don't you do this or why don't you do that? And we are always looking for the next challenge also in the academia. So what do you think is going to be the next killer application for NLP in Finland? And who do you think should actually develop it? Should it be the universities? Should it be the companies? Basically, what it is that we are missing most right now? Anyone can start if you have anything to say.
So from my point of view, so something that you can see in these kind of online meetings and so on, there's a lot of language technology that drives these systems that we're using now. So, and I can see, for example, simultaneous interpretation as one of the killer applications coming up. And this, what I can see, so you asked who will develop this. I believe there's a lot of basic research still needs to be done in that direction. So there's probably a lot of academic research still to be actually done also at university level. But then, of course, if this becomes then a commercial product, then I guess there's a lot of collaboration that should be pushed, and the product is then, of course, up to the commercial partners to develop and integrate properly to also make the optimizations that are necessary and so on. But that's at least one killer application that I can think of. Then you might also, of course, you always mention virtual assistants. What?
How far do you think we are on a sort of simultaneous machine translation into Finnish?
Yeah, well, difficult to say. So as this is very much depending also who's participating in the conversation, and they have a very clear language and we have enough training data, then we could probably develop something that works to some extent, not very good at the moment, but at least it could be giving you some gist. But if you have very big mix of people coming from different backgrounds, talking about a domain and specific topic that is not really available to the model, then we're probably far off.
Okay.
I would say that the answer to that question has for 20 years been, speech interfaces. So that's not the answer. So, but I think that the killer application will be sort of invisible. And I think that will be a machine translation, basically, that we will not see it, but there will be machine translation behind most of the websites that we visit, for example, and most of the services that we try to get here in Finland, and in particular in the minority languages. So I don't think it's realistic to have a Swedish doctor. For example, I'm Swedish speaking, but I think it will be realistic to communicate with most doctors in Swedish, and I think that change will come. And I've been Christmas shopping on the web from Finnish websites, and surprisingly few of them have a Swedish counterpart to their website, even if their sister company is from Sweden. So there is a very low threshold to have much more machine translation and much more translation. And Amazon in Sweden is a good example. They weren't afraid of a few mistakes. They got their store online anyway.
Yeah, that's a good point. Anyone else?
Yeah, it's just the idea of a killer app is always interesting, and I agree with what's been said so far, that it's probably going to come from the area of MT. But if we want to look back at the small niche of what Kielkone is doing, if you look at what has been a killer application for us so far, then I would pick up Nokia's heyday. Back in Nokia's heyday, we were able to integrate a multilingual dictionary into the Symbian platform. So that was a commercial, in the very small scale that I'm talking about. This was a killer application for us. And then another one a bit later on would have been, everyone knows Kielitoimistosanakirja, which is the definitive dictionary of the Finnish language, the monolingual one. When we were first able to bring that into our services as a digital dictionary, that was a commercial it had commercial significance. It was commercially significant. So if I look at the whole thing from this point of view, I hope that the next killer application would be MT. Not sure if that will translate, pun not intended, into commercial success and killer application for us as a small company, but definitely looking forward to it.
what do you have to say? Sampo, you are not in the machine translation.
No, so I very much agree that there are extremely important applications and there are very big opportunities at the moment, both in machine translation and the area of speech recognition and text-to-speech. I would also like to mention search, which ties somewhat into language understanding or the generation of representations of meaning that can be queried. So Finnish is definitely not quite up there with English in terms of what you get from a Google search. And there's quite a little available specifically for Finnish. And I think this is an area where we could potentially make great strides with recent state-of-the-art technology that hasn't really been fully explored yet.
Okay. And Pasi, do you have anything to add?
Yes, I'm agree with you, Philip, that you said that about the assistance or something like that. That I think that the killer application should be something that is invisible. You cannot see. We are now mostly talking about technologies, machine translation, or that kind of stuff. But if you want to application, something that you can see, it's something that makes things happen. So that instead of having translation, instead of having search or need of opening Google, you can speak or write something and it makes things happen. It may help you at your home, but it might help you in the world, like in shopping or somewhere else, so that it helps you somehow. I don't know what it is yet. We will see it maybe later, but I think it goes that direction.
So if we, yes, thank you. I think that I've heard a lot of multilingual and translation in the past few minutes. So I think that indeed might be. I also agree. I think it's very important to actually open the English-speaking internet to people who only speak Finnish or who like to read Finnish or Swedish or any of the other languages. How do you think we should achieve it? So for machine translation and these kind of tasks, you need a lot of data. Jörg has, of course, done a very commendable work in gathering a lot of the data. Is there any chance that we could sort of gather more data across more varied domains and have this kind of national push for building these kind of systems? Because if I have learned something in Finnish NLP is that if you want to do something, you have to make the data yourself first, because nobody will make it for you. So we have this donate speech. Should we have something like donate translation? And that will, of course, be not only for the citizens. It could be for the companies. I know that Jörg is running a project where I'm also involved, which is actually striving to gather machine translation data for machine translation training. Is it difficult, Jörg?
Almost impossible. So it's really difficult to get data. But what I think is there needs to be some initiative from the state, and also it should be a bit more clear to the leadership of a country, and the European Union is, I think, quite clear already that it is important to have to pushing not only data collection but also development of technology that is transparent and not just relying on the global players. So they sit on the data, they provide the services, and they make us very much dependent on what they develop. So if we really want to push something, then there needs to be a decision from high above to say that we would like to develop our own competitor in this area, and also maybe at a larger scale, so that we collect systematically what we, for example, produce in translation, but not only that, but also other technologies. So if you want to push support for your own languages and you don't want to make yourself a slave of these big companies, then of course you have to push a lot of money into this. And that I think is not always quite clear to the leadership, that if you see the success of services that we have online, then you might not see why is it necessary that we develop this ourselves. But we might see this more in the future, near future, that if we're too much depending on those big players, then we're also trapped in that corner.
That's correct.
Didn't really answer your question. So your question was more, is it difficult to collect data? Yes.
Yeah, I think you answered in the first sentence that it's nearly impossible. I have observed this, that it's so easy to say, sorry, we cannot give you any data, but if you have any nice models, we will be very happy to use them. So I think this is an attitude problem that we might need to work on. Somebody was trying to speak up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that this problem or this issue extends very much beyond just machine translation. So basically, these days, state-of-the-art language technology applications are applied supervised machine learning. So the major limitations we face in developing those applications is having access to sufficient amounts of annotated high-quality data. So the data is almost always the bottleneck. And I think more funding, more support for this on a national level would enable the next generation of language technology applications for the languages in Finland.
To make this a little bit discussion panel, I'm going to counter argument, I believe. This is so data that lies around has a tendency to grow old and lose relevance. What's needed is a constant influx of a little bit of fresh data and have the models able to learn and adapt to this. A large pool of data of text, it will become almost irrelevant in 10 years' time, is my guess. Lack of data is the least of our problems, I would say. We have enough. There is a little bit of problem that the algorithms don't learn well enough. But I don't think that lack of data is a problem.
I might specify lack of quality annotated data would be the point that I would challenge. Yeah, I agree. We have lots of unannotated data.
Yes, I think I don't feel I have Sebastian's problem of having enough of data and not good enough methods. Is it do you think it's difficult to get a little stream of this data flowing into the academia and that can utilize it? So if you think about machine translation systems, what we have is EU Parliament data and movie subtitles. That's 99% of the mass of data on which we are training the systems. Having access to, for example, some of your translation memories, Sebastian, would be fantastic.
Indeed.
Maybe just to also clarify what I meant, it's not only data. I think it's investment in everything that is related to development of language technology, which needs really investment. So if we see at the big companies once again, so they have invested heavily really in also the engineering part and the development of models and pushing a lot of manpower into this, and also data collection. All of this really is required if you want to compete and develop something on the same scale. And if there's no initiative in the country or from European level in that direction, then of course we cannot develop something on the same level of quality. So if we talk about virtual assistants, that also is mentioned typically quite a lot, so that you want to compete with systems like Alexa or Siri and so on. I don't know how many years of development is behind those systems. So it's not only about the data, it's kind of the global interest, or you have to recognize the importance of that technology for the entire society and for your whatever applications you need to run inside of a daily life. So if you don't want to be dependent on the global players and want to have something developed in your own direction or for your own languages that are not supported yet, then you have to heavily invest. That's what I want to say.
And I would like
agree
to
on that.
add also that one of the reasons that Finland is well off is because of these national initiatives like Kielipankki, Finnish Language Bank, and other European countries have similar initiatives too, and recognize that the big players are not going to help them. So Iceland, for example, has a huge initiative. Estonia, I don't know. I think it's pretty common in small European countries to nationally fund this type of data resource management. Norway is huge.
How do you see, especially now, the representatives of the companies, Kaarina, Pasi, Sebastian? I'm often meeting this kind of semi-serious jokes about how universities should not release open source, the kind of technology that we do. Jörg releases a lot of machine translation models. We have made the parser, sentiment detector, all these, and I keep hearing that we are eating the business from the companies. Do you think that holds, or do you see these open source tools developed basically on government money as an opportunity or as a threat? Kaarina, Pasi, what do you think?
Yeah, go ahead, Pasi. I'll come after.
Okay. My opinion is that this open source use is not nowadays the threat. The threat comes from the big companies like Google and Amazon. And indirectly, open source is a threat because if it produces something that is useful, Google and Amazon can kind of take them and offer them for free in big kind of in their own ecosystem, which makes life much more difficult. But the open source itself, university is not the problem. Universities producing this is not the problem. Problem is with the big players who use this for free.
Yeah, well, if you look at it from the point of view of if it's an opportunity or if it's a threat, but I think it's both for us, for a player like Kielikone. I see it as a huge opportunity because what is actually happening is that brilliant people are doing great things and things are progressing really quickly. Machine translation is a good example. We used to develop machine translation in-house for 10 years with public funding and with company funding. And now that we have the deep learning technologies and neural networks, doesn't really make any sense for us to do that anymore because it's been like a paradigm shift in terms of machine translation quality. So it's just making things more easy for us to offer those services to our customers because it's cheaper for us to just license them than it is to actually develop them ourselves. But then threat is a big word, but in terms of open source licenses, we have to be a little bit careful as a commercial player. There can be surprises within the licensing terms, and we have to really be selective of what we can actually offer to our customers. So I think it's both. Again, to bring you sort of to give you an idea of what's going on in a small Finnish language technology company like Kielikone, Google and all the other big players, we have been talking about how they are a threat to our business for years, and then actually the threat has not quite been realized in our business. So that's the way it looks for us today.
So there seems to be enough of areas where still a local company has an edge on Google. That's what I would also imagine, because often there are requirements on data not traveling outside of company servers and so on, which exactly gives the opportunity. I'm actually afraid we are running out of time. So we are now 1 minute over, but we also started 1 minute late, so I think we kept our 30 minutes. Does anyone have anything anything burning that you would like to say at this point when we are finishing this panel? Any closing remarks? Something you
I would say
really
one
want some
sentence.
people to hear? Yeah.
Open source is a great way to lower the threshold from getting research to industry application. I don't think we would have had the big players if the open source movement hadn't started it. Sort of.
I agree.
Also, just want to agree that open source, I think, is more an opportunity than a threat also for the companies. As now there's lots of niche developments can be possible having these kind of framework already set up for you. And then the commercialization and product development is such a bit different thing from the open sourced packages. So I think it's just opening lots of different directions that you otherwise would not have. So of course I'm biased because I'm from the university point of view here.
Okay, I agree. So that all the companies in Finland are very small in global sense, and we have to be in niche anyway. That might be the language, but also the application that what we are doing. And then everything that gives us more data and more knowledge helps us.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we are out of time and should stop and give everyone opportunity for the coffee break that is starting right now. So thank you very much for the discussion.